Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding, just for the next 3 days, you're going to treat yourself like someone who truly matters. Not with fluff, not with cheesy lines you don't believe, but with real, grounded, intentional words that rewire how you see yourself. Most people walk around all day with an internal bully whispering in their ear. And here's the truth. What you say to yourself when no one's around is shaping your reality, whether you know it or not. For the next 3 days, I want you to rewire that inner dialogue. I'm talking about shifting the script that's been playing in your head for years. That same script that says you're not enough, you're not ready, you're too far behind, or that everyone else has something you don't. That voice? It's a lie built from repetition. It didn't show up overnight. It was trained by years of experiences, disappointments, and comparison. But here's the good news. You can retrain it. You can override it. And it doesn't take a lifetime to start. It takes a decision and 3 days of doing it on purpose. You ever notice how easy it is to talk down to yourself? You miss a deadline and suddenly you're lazy. You make a mistake and you're not cut out for this. You feel tired and now you're falling off again. That kind of language doesn't just float by. It settles in, it creates an identity, and before you know it, you're living inside a version of yourself that you don't even like. But you believe it because you've said it enough times. The voice you hear the most is your own. So what it's saying matters more than almost anything else. Now imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and say, I'm showing up today like a leader. Maybe you're not in charge of anyone else, but you're leading yourself. You're commanding your energy, your time, your attention. You say, I'm the kind of person who finishes what I start. I follow through. I get better every single time I show up. Even if part of you doesn't believe it yet, you say it anyway. Because this isn't about pretending. It's about planting. You don't plant a seed and expect fruit tomorrow. You water it. You give it sun. You let it root. And that's what these next 3 days are about. Watering the right words until your brain stops fighting you and starts following you. Every time you talk to yourself, you're either building or breaking. You're either planting something fruitful or something toxic. There is no neutral. Don't get me wrong. This isn't some surface level mirror pep talk. This is about identity. If you want different outcomes in your life, you need a different inner voice guiding your decisions. Because your actions will never rise higher than your beliefs about yourself. And beliefs are built through repetition. So for 3 days, I'm challenging you to catch every self-criticism before it completes its sentence and replace it with truth, real truth. I'm not lazy. I've just been unfocused. And that's something I can change. I don't always mess things up. I'm learning how to handle pressure better. I don't want to be perfect to be powerful. I just have to be committed. Do you hear the shift? You're not denying where you are. You're redefining what that means. That's the power of intentional self-talk. It's not pretending that problems don't exist. It's reminding yourself that you're the one who gets to decide what they mean and what comes next. That's ownership. And that's where confidence begins. Let me tell you this. Nothing external can consistently fix an internal war. I don't care how much money you make, who compliments you, what you drive, or how many followers you have. If the voice in your head is tearing you down, you'll sabotage every opportunity that comes your way. But if you fix the voice, if you start speaking to yourself with purpose and clarity, you become unstoppable. Not because the world changes, but because you do. For 3 days, this is your assignment. Talk to yourself with the same precision and power you would use to encourage someone you love. Even if you slip, you reset, you go again. Because the repetition is where the transformation happens. This isn't about hype. This is about habits. Start building the habit of speaking life into your own soul and watch how fast your world starts to shift. 3 days. That's all it takes to start the change. If you want to change your life, you've got to change the way you talk to yourself. Not someday, not when you feel like it, but starting right now. And here's something most people never realize. Your brain doesn't respond to who you were or who you wish to be someday. It responds to the identity you claim in the present tense. That means if you keep saying things like, I'm trying to be more confident, or I hope I can become disciplined, you're already behind, because what you're really doing is telling your brain, that's not who I am yet. And what your brain hears the most is what it believes the deepest. So for these next 3 days, I want you to speak your future like it's already here. I want you to stop asking permission to be powerful and start speaking in a way that commands alignment. Stop saying, I'll be successful someday, and start saying, I am building success right now. Stop saying, I hope I can be consistent. And start saying, I am consistent. I am committed. I am locked in. Even if part of you doubts it, say it anyway, because repetition will overpower resistance if you give it time. Let me give it to you straight. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined when you back it up with repetition and emotion. If you constantly say, I'm just not good with money, guess what? Your decisions will follow that script. You'll find ways to sabotage, to delay, to overspend, to underplan. Not because you're broken, but because you're loyal to the identity you've repeated to yourself. But the moment you switch that language and say, I am learning to multiply my money, I manage my finances like a leader, something starts to shift. Your decisions get in line with your new identity. You stop outsourcing your potential and you start owning it because you've claimed it in the now. This isn't wishful thinking. This is neurological alignment. You want to feel more confident? Then speak like someone who already is. You want to lead better? Then talk to yourself like someone who leads with clarity and conviction. Don't wait until the results show up, because they're waiting on you. People say, well, I don't want to lie to myself. Let me ask you something. Was it the truth when you told yourself you weren't good enough? Was it the truth when you said you always mess things up? Or was that just a lie you repeated so many times it felt real? We've got to get comfortable declaring who we are before the evidence shows up, because the evidence follows belief, not the other way around. You've been trained to look for proof before you speak with confidence. But I'm telling you right now, the people who create extraordinary results aren't waiting on proof. They're walking in belief. And they say, I am this. And then they move like it. They decide it's true. And their habits catch up. When you start using present tense declarations, you're not pretending, you're positioning. You're saying, this is who I choose to be now, and every step I take aligns with that identity. Try this for the next 3 days. Instead of saying, I hope, say, I am. Instead of saying one day, say now. And say it out loud. Say it with authority. There is something powerful about hearing your own voice declare your identity. It hits different. It lands deeper. You might not feel it on day one. That's okay. You're not looking for a dopamine rush. You're building a foundation. You're building muscle. And just like in the gym, the first reps might feel awkward, maybe even weak. But you don't stop lifting just because it's heavy. You keep going until you get strong. That's exactly how self-talk works. Keep lifting that identity. Keep speaking it. Keep living in the now version of who you've chosen to be. This is where transformation begins. Not in the hustle, not in the checklist, not in the goals. It begins in the way you speak about yourself to yourself right now, because your words are the software that programs your actions. Speak like you already are what you're becoming, and your results will eventually match the script you've been running. 3 days. Present tense. Relentless belief. That's how you start the shift. You said every single one of us has two voices inside, one that builds and one that breaks. One is a critic and the other is a coach. And for most people, the critic gets way too much airtime. It's that voice that says, see, you did it again. Or why even try? You know you'll fall off. It creeps in so quietly that you don't even notice it. It sounds like truth because it's familiar, not because it's right. And unless you interrupt that pattern, it becomes the dominant voice that steers your life. You've got to learn to catch it in real time. That's the key. Not an hour later when you're already discouraged. Not at the end of the day when you're journaling about what went wrong. In the moment. Mid-thought. When that critic starts creeping in, when it starts feeding you doubt, shame, guilt, fear, you stop it right there. and then you replace it. You don't just try to ignore it or pretend it didn't happen. You speak back with a higher level of truth. You switch roles. You fire the critic and hire the coach. Let me make this plain. Your critic will always point out the problem, but your coach will point to the potential. Your critic says, "You're always late. You'll never get it together." Your coach says, "Let's figure out why you're running late and build a system that works." Your critic says, "You're too far behind to catch up." Your coach says, "You're exactly where you need to be to make your next move count." See the difference? One shames you into paralysis. The other empowers you into action. And this is where most people get stuck. They think if they're hard enough on themselves, they'll change. But shame doesn't produce transformation. It produces hiding. You can't grow while you're hiding. You can't create while you're tearing yourself down. The critic voice keeps you in a loop. You mess up, beat yourself up. Feel worse, then repeat the behavior. It's not discipline, it's self-sabotage. The voice of the coach, that voice calls you up, not out. It acknowledges the mistake, but it moves you forward. It challenges you without condemning you. Now, I know some people say, "But I've been like this for so long." So what? Just because you've repeated a pattern doesn't mean it has to define your future. Just because the critic's voice has been louder doesn't mean it's the truth. It just means it's been practiced. And here's what I want you to understand. Whatever voice you rehearse the most becomes the voice to respond to the fastest. You don't need a miracle. You need a mental interruption. You need to stop letting the first voice that shows up be the final authority. So for the next 3 days, I want you to do this. Every time you catch that critic voice rising up, I want you to pause and ask, what would the coach version of me say right now? I'm serious. Ask it out loud if you have to. You'll be amazed how quickly that shift reframes the moment. You'll stop spiraling and start solving. You'll stop shrinking and start stepping up. Let's say you mess up your schedule. You didn't follow through. You missed a workout. You slipped on your diet. The critic says, "Typical. You never stick with anything." That's the moment right there where the shift has to happen. Instead of just letting that voice have the mic, you speak back. You say, "Hold up. I had a setback, but I'm not a failure. I'm back on track right now, one choice at a time." That's your coach voice. That's you reclaiming the narrative. The critic voice may never go away completely. It's part of being human, but it doesn't have to lead. It doesn't have to dominate. You get to decide who holds the mic. You get to decide which voice you turn up and which one you tune out. And the more you choose the coach, the easier it becomes. Because again, repetition rewires reality. And this isn't just mindset stuff. This is strategy. This is you learning to lead yourself. You do this for 3 days, just 3, and you'll notice something wild. You'll start thinking differently, acting differently, even carrying yourself differently. Not because your circumstances have changed, but because the voice driving your decisions has changed. And when you lead yourself with compassion, truth, and direction, your life starts to follow that leadership. Catch the critic, replace it with a coach, do that for 3 days, and you won't want to go back. Here's the truth most people overlook. Repetition isn't boring, it's powerful. And if you want to change your life, you're going to have to say some things over and over again until they stop sounding like a stretch and start feeling like your standard. For 3 days, I'm not asking you to say something once and hope for a miracle. I'm challenging you to repeat the same core truths to yourself so consistently, so deliberately, that your brain starts accepting them as your new normal. Because repetition creates belief, and belief creates results. Now let's break that down. Your subconscious doesn't respond to what you say once. It responds to what you rehearse. It responds to what you plant daily. If you've been walking around for the past 5, 10, 20 years saying, "I'm not good at this. I always mess up. I can't keep momentum," then guess what's built into your mental operating system? A loop. A belief that no longer needs evidence because you've repeated it enough times for it to feel real. That's how most limiting beliefs work. They're just repeated lies that gained authority through your own voice. But the opposite is just as true. You can start repeating new truths, new declarations, and if you do it consistently enough, they will begin to take root. That's how all transformation starts. You rehearse a better version of yourself until you start showing up like that person. For these next 3 days, I want you to go beyond just saying it once in the mirror. I want you to embed these new declarations into your daily rhythm. In the morning, before your feet hit the ground, I want you to declare who you are. Out loud, not as a wish, but as a decision. I am disciplined. I am focused. I execute without delay. I honor my word. I build momentum. I keep promises to myself. Say it before you check your phone, before you scroll. Before the world has a chance to tell you who you're not, you tell yourself who you are. Then throughout the day, I want you to reinforce it. Write it on a sticky note and put it on your laptop. Set a reminder that pops up every few hours that says, speak the truth. Not the emotional truth, the intentional truth. The one you've decided to live from, not the one you're trying to escape. Hold your phone out. Wants to read a lock screen and say it again. I keep promises to myself. I do hard things. I finish what I start. And right before bed, say it again. That's when your mind is most open to reinforcement, right before sleep. Don't go to bed with chaos in your head. Don't let anxiety have the final word. End your day speaking life. Speak it over your goals, your discipline, your faith, your mindset, your capacity. This isn't about height. This is about programming. Repetition is how you install the mindset required to sustain growth. Let me tell you what happens when you do this consistently, even just for 3 days. You'll start to notice a shift. Subtle at first, you'll hesitate less. You'll speak with more certainty. You'll show up to that task or that workout or that tough conversation without overthinking it. Why? Because repetition breeds familiarity, and familiarity creates confidence. You're not afraid of what you're familiar with. So when you've repeated a new identity to yourself often enough, stepping into it no longer feels like a stretch. It feels like the natural next step. And look, it's not going to feel magical at first. You might say it on day one and feel like a fraud. That's normal. But here's what you've got to understand. You don't need to feel it to plant it. You just need to keep showing up to the repetition. Over time, your brain starts asking different questions. Your decisions start reflecting your declarations. You don't just say, I am. Well, discipline. You start acting like it. Not because the words were magical, but because they rewired what you expected of yourself. You want to reprogram fear, doubt, hesitation? You don't need more motivation. You need more repetition. Speak it over and over. No one else has to hear it, but you do. Because you are the one who decides what gets repeated. And the most repeated voice always wins. You do that for 3 days. Morning, afternoon, and night. You speak the truth of who you are becoming. And you do it like it matters, because it does. And when those 3 days are done, you'll realize something powerful. You weren't waiting on a breakthrough. You were waiting on consistency. 3 days of repetition will start building the person you were meant to be.